Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Schiffers. I'm a senior researcher here at the RSA and research lead for the City Growth Commission based here at the RSA as well. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all today to this evening's special event. Thanks for making it with any troubles you had getting here. Before we begin, quick reminder, we're filming tonight's event and live streaming, so switch your phones on silent. You don't have to turn them off. You can tweet during the event. The hashtag for the event is RSA Commons, and there's Wi-Fi. The details should be available up there. Welcome to our online viewers as well. We'll take questions online as well as from the audience at the end of the speech from Jeremy. So, tonight's guest speaker is Jeremy Rifkin. He's a world-renowned public thinker, and it's not his first time at the RSA. He worked in the last century to bring environmental issues to the mainstream, including greenhouse gases. Considering the distribution and the production of energy, he wrote a book which coined the term the Third Industrial Revolution. And he's now a hugely influential advisor to leaders, governments, organizations, and corporations around the world, including the European Commission and Cisco. His books have been translated into over 30 languages. There are 400,000 readers of the Third Industrial Revolution in China, and Premier Li Keqiang lists it among his favorite books. His first talk here was turned into a hugely successful RSA Animate, which you can watch online. We're delighted to welcome him back to the stage here tonight. I'm particularly keen to learn from Jeremy what his research can tell us. I led a project earlier this year looking at retail, which is a big industry in the midst of a really disruptive change based on internet technology. And it begs the question of what retailers will do with leftover physical space, or what we might even call the left-behind economy. We encouraged corporates to maximize the social potential of their stores and that leftover space. And looking forward to later this year, the RSA, we want to explore how the sharing economy and how collaborative platforms can actually play a role in the reform of public services as well, and addressing challenges such as the provision of public transport and social care. So there's lots in store for us tonight. I'll ensure that there's time for you all to ask questions to Jeremy at the end, but for now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jeremy Rifkin.
When you get older, it takes you longer to prepare. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for coming. We're just beginning to glimpse our future. A new economic system is entering onto the world stage. It's called the Collaborative Commons. This is the first new economic system to emerge since the advent of capitalism and socialism in the early 19th century. So it's a remarkable event. And the introduction of this new economic system, the Collaborative Commons, is going to dramatically impact all of our lives, the way we work, the way we play, the way we live, as we move further into the 21st century. I have to say, I never thought in my lifetime we would see a new economic system on the world stage. The precipitating agent, the trigger, that's taking us from the capitalist system to the Collaborative Commons is something called zero marginal cost. Do not be frightened. I know this is a business term. Marginal cost is the cost of producing an additional unit of a good or service once your fixed costs are absorbed. Let me explain the impact of zero marginal cost. There's a paradox deeply embedded in the heart of the capitalist system, previously undisclosed. Not even Karl Marx got it. In the capitalist marketplace, this paradox has led to its great success and the triumph of the invisible hand. Here's the irony. The capitalist system is about to have its ultimate triumph, and that triumph near zero marginal cost is going to mean its sunset on the world stage and a replacement paradigm, the Collaborative Commons. In a capitalist market, sellers are continually in search of new technologies that can increase productivity, reduce marginal costs, so they can put out cheaper products, win over consumers from their competitors, bring back some profit for their investors. So businesses have always wanted to reduce marginal costs. In an economic theory of capitalism, what's interesting is the economics theory says that the marginal cost is the optimal efficient state in which to price a good or service. It's just that economists never in their wildest imagination anticipated a technology revolution whose productivity was so extreme that it might bring those marginal costs to near zero, making goods and services essentially free, abundant, beyond profit in the exchange capitalist economy. That's what's beginning to happen. It's quite extraordinary. We saw the zero marginal cost phenomena sweep through the information goods industries over the last 15 years. Millions of people, then hundreds of millions of people, turned consumer to prosumer. And they began to produce their own music and share it with each other, bypassing the recording industry. They began to produce and share their own videos on YouTube, bypassing the entertainment industry at near zero marginal cost and for free. And then millions of people began to create their own news blogs, bypassing the traditional media at near zero marginal cost, sharing it for free. And then, of course, the publishing industry. Millions of people are producing their own information and also free ebooks at near zero marginal cost. The recording industry tumbled in less than 5 years when young people began to share music with each other, bypassing the industry. Newspapers went out of business, magazines bellied up when young people began to move to their own blogs and share their own knowledge on Wikipedia. And the publishing industry has been racked by free ebooks at near zero marginal cost. So this is already, the zero marginal cost phenomenon has already invaded the entire information goods industry. We take it for granted, but it's changed the equation. We've now democratized communication. 40% of the human race is up there on the web. They have cheap cell phones and desktop computers. They only have to pay a service provider, and they're producing and sharing all sorts of entertainment and information goods at near zero marginal cost free on this collaborative commons already. Economists have said, well, okay, we understand that the information goods industry has been literally turned upside down by the zero marginal cost phenomenon, but we think there's a firewall here, and that the zero marginal cost phenomena will not breach the firewall and move from the virtual world of information goods to the physical brick and mortar world of energy and manufactured products. That's no longer the case. The wall has been breached. We are now moving from bits to atoms. Now, if I'd said to you in 1989, a year before the World Wide Web, that 24 years later, 40% of the human race would be sending entertainment, film, video, news, and knowledge to each other at near zero marginal cost and sharing it for free, you would have thought that is absolutely fantasy land. We did it. Now we're moving from bits to atoms, and the change is being precipitated by a metamorphosis of the Internet. The Internet is now morphing into a super Internet, an Internet of things. So the conventional Internet we're used to is beginning to converge with a fledgling energy Internet and a nascent automated transport and logistics Internet to create a super Internet, bringing together the three things that every economy and society needs to manage itself. Every economy in history has to have a source of communication, a source of energy and power, and a source of logistics and mobility. So now we have the communication Internet beginning to converge with an energy Internet and an automated transport Internet to create an Internet of Things. And this super Internet, this operating platform, is like a brain. And now it's sending out the tentacles to create the nervous system. We have 14 billion sensors now connecting resource flows, monitoring what's going on in the environment. We have sensors connecting warehouses and distribution centers to see what's going on in those warehouses. We have sensors connecting smart roads and traffic patterns. We have sensors on the factory floor monitoring and feeding real-time data on what's going on in production. We have sensors on the new electricity grid that can tell us the price of electricity and which appliance is being used and which appliance is not being used. We have sensors in retail stores monitoring consumer traffic, who's buying and what are they buying. We have sensors connecting everything, every device, every contrivance with every human being in our natural environment. By 2020, IBM says 50 billion sensors. By 2030, the latest forecast, 100 trillion sensors connecting the human world, the natural world, and all the things in it. Now, of course, your first reaction is this is exciting, and your second reaction is this is a little scary. It's exciting because we're creating a nervous system that can connect the human race, our fellow creatures, in one planet, so we can begin to think as a species. It's frightening because the question emerges, what about data security? What about privacy? What about cyber terrorism? I deal with all of this at length in the Zero Marginal Cost Society. If we can't address these issues, we will not be able to enjoy the benefits of the next stage of the human journey. So what this means is if we maintain network neutrality, which is a big if, you know, on the internet, it's neutral. So all of us can go on the internet, we pay our service fee for a provider, and we are treated like everyone else, our information. We're not put at the back of the line or the front of the line. We're not discriminated against. It allows everyone to have open access. That's the value of the internet. That's now being challenged, but now that we go to the super internet, the Internet of Things, communication, energy, and logistics internet, we have to protect network neutrality because now anyone in the world will be able to go on to this super internet. It's already starting to emerge. It's not academic. And with your own mobile technology, you can have your own apps established ahead of time, and you can begin to mine the big data flowing through this system, just like the big guys at Google or at General Motors. And you can use that big data with advanced analytics, with programmed apps, so you don't have to be a scientist, and you can use that data to create your own algorithms, just like Google, and dramatically increase your productivity, reduce the marginal cost in producing and sharing renewable energy and 3D printed products. Just like we now use our mobiles and apps, and we produce and share our own information across a flow of information on the internet. So we have democratized communication in 24 years. We've got 40% of the human race, and any one of us can go on that internet and potentially have access to 40% of the human race at near zero marginal cost. But that's just the beginning of the story. Now we're going to be able, in the years ahead, and it's already started, to produce our own and share our own renewable energy, and soon our own 3D printed products across vast collaborative commons at near zero marginal cost and nearly for free. Renewable energy. We now have millions and millions and millions of small players, producer cooperatives, consumer cooperatives, small and medium-sized enterprises, neighborhood associations, farmers, and households. They're producing their own green energy right now at near zero marginal cost, right now. The harvesting technology is still a little pricey, but it's on an exponential curve for solar and wind. We've been on an exponential curve for 20 years in solar and wind. You know how much a solar watt of electricity cost in 1970? $60. You know what it costs tonight? 66 cents, and it's going down. So just as in the computer world, the information internet, we double the knowledge and half the cost on the chips, and by exponential curves, we could get to very cheap computing. We're seeing that now in the world of atoms when it gets to energy. So even before you put the technology in, you have to pay for the solar, you have to pay for the wind technology, but before you pay the fixed cost back, the marginal cost of actually generating that sun and wind, it's already nearly free as soon as you install the technology. The sun off your roof is free. The wind flowing through your property is free. The geothermal heat underneath your office building, it's free. You just have to capture it. This is already a reality now. In Germany, 25% of the electricity is green. 35% of electricity will be green by 2020. Some of you know I've advised the Chancellor and German government since she came into office. And already we have so much solar and wind coming into the grid that it's disrupting the old system. There's some problems now. The wholesale price has gone way down, but the retail price has gone up because we have to pay back for the installations. But when we get over that hump, Germany's going to be at near zero marginal cost energy across the country. And once you have the energy generated, you can send it up on the energy internet, any surplus, and you can share it across Germany and hopefully across the European continent. Just like we create information, store it in digital, and share it online, that's now beginning to emerge in Germany, Denmark, and some other places. 3D printed products. We now have hundreds of thousands of hobbyists and thousands of startup companies that are printing out their own manufactured products at near zero marginal cost. And now in the school systems of America, the White House has a plan where every school is going to get a printer. And I'm sure you're going to do it here. I think that's already been in the discussion within the next year or so, just like the early computers that came into the school. So with these 3D printers, you can download from the Internet of Things, the super internet, the software for free. Most of this is free software, just like we saw in the information internet. And then you can use recycled feedstock for your material to print out the physical object. You can use recycled plastic, recycled paper. They're even using local gravel and stone and melting it down. Power your 3D printer with your own green electricity at near zero marginal cost coming from the local energy internet. Then transport your finished 3D product to market in the next few years on the automated logistics internet. Already we can use electric vehicles with renewable energy. The first 3D printed car is on the road, printed just by a small group of people, printed out using solar energy. It's right now driving on the road. So you'll be able to take a 3D printed car, run by your own green electricity, and then transport it with GPS to the market, and within 7 years to 8 years from now, you'll be able to do it in driverless vehicles and perhaps drones at near zero marginal cost. So what we've done in the information industry, which devastated the traditional big corporations, this is now moving to energy and 3D printed products. There's a big pushback by traditional industries, don't want this to happen. The recording industry tried to stop the young people sharing music with legislation and encryption. It failed. It's too sweet. Once the technology is there, it's going to be used. The newspapers and magazine and book publishing industry tried to thwart people producing and sharing their own news, knowledge, and information and books. It's too sweet. Again, the economists had it right when they say the optimum efficient economy is where you sell at marginal cost. They just never expected it would be zero, therefore no more profits. Okay? So the question becomes, if we can begin to produce and share our own information, our own entertainment, our own news, our own knowledge, our own green energy, and our own manufactured products, what kind of economic system would we have to develop to organize this kind of economic activity? Our economists are fairly short-sighted. They believe there's only two ways to organize an economy: private enterprise, government, or some combination between the two, a social market economy. What they ignore is that there's another sector in our life, in this room and around the world, that we rely on every single day to provide all sorts of goods and services that are absolutely essential to our well-being, that are not part of the private enterprise system and not enabled by government. It's called the social commons, the social economy. Some of it's formalized as the nonprofit sector, but it's even bigger than that. It's all of the activity we engage in willingly, playfully, to create social capital and help produce and share things together. It's huge. It's enormous. It's not counted by economists because it doesn't create market capital. A survey was done by Johns Hopkins University of nonprofits around the world, and they found that it's already a $2.2 trillion revenue industry. And what's most interesting is that this social commons is growing faster than the marketplace. Between 2000 and 2010, the social commons around the world grew at 42% in revenue. The private enterprise system, GDP, grew at 14%. And already in the UK, the US, and Canada, it's over 5% of the GDP. The social commons includes health organizations, nonprofit school systems, environmental organizations, sports, arts, and cultural groups, assisted living for the elderly, helping the poor, every kind of activity you can imagine that's deeply social, that's deeply collaborative and cooperative. What's bringing this social commons out of the shadows is the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is the technological soulmate of a social commons because its architecture is designed, think of these three internets, communication, energy, and logistics. The architecture is designed to be distributed, collaborative. It favors peer production in lateral networks so that millions of small players, social entrepreneurs, SMEs, households, nonprofits can come together. They can bypass all the middlemen in the vertically integrated global corporations of the 20th century and produce and share information, energy, and goods and services at a lower cost towards zero. It makes it actually more competitive than the current system, but that competition means it's not for profit. So people say to me, well, how would you ever have incentive to operate an economic system if it wasn't based on profit? Wake up call. We're doing it already. Cooperatives. Billions of people are in cooperatives, and they don't talk about it in the economics profession. We have farm cooperatives providing a lot of our food. We have housing cooperatives providing much of our housing around the world. We have banking cooperatives that are bigger than commercial banks in many countries. We have all of these cooperatives. Billions of people are involved with them, and we seem to make a very prosperous economy, but it doesn't require profit. The new electricity in Germany